Today, can you play Smash Bros. Ultimate wrong? Of course you can! This is CheckPoint.
Hello and welcome to CheckPoint, where, inspired by the Weird Al concert Beej and I went to last night, this week's episode will be a polka!
No go. The accordion player has having car trouble.
Well, can I have a minute to get out of these leather shorts?
You've got the length of my first story. Go! High-level Smash players want to ban the game's newest fighter, Hero from Dragon Quest. Not because he's too good, but because he's too unpredictable. The issue is that Hero has a special called Command Selection, which, when used, will allow the player to use one of 4 classic Dragon Quest spells selected randomly from a pool of 20. That means when a player uses Command Selection, they might heal, do an offensive move, buff themselves. It's impossible to tell. Furthermore, one of the spells you might get in Command Selection is Hocus Pocus, which is itself another random effect spell, which means that if you get Hocus Pocus and then choose it, an even more random effect happens. There's a 6% chance you'll turn invisible, and also a 6% chance you'll get slowed. Thankfully, there's only a 0.91% chance you'll explode. It's all very fun if you're a casual button masher like me, and apparently absolutely infuriating if you care about things like strategy and skill. Hero has already been banned from a series of upcoming Smash tournaments in Australia, and there are similar murmurings percolating elsewhere online. Seriously, what was Nintendo thinking by introducing a character like this? It's almost like they don't even realize they're making a competitive fighting game.
Ugh. Korn, the metal band, not the foodstuff, held a concert in an MMORPG recently, and rather than just be something you watch, the game turned it into an event. Once the concert began and players flooded the floor, Korn took the stage with a bunch of monsters. Monsters the players could kill in order to fulfill a quest. The concert culminated in players attacking the stage directly in order to kill Thrash, the giant skull-headed boss decorating the stage. Upon Thrash's demise, the concert ended and everyone teleported out of the performance area to the lobby to spend money on Korn-themed merch and gear. I have to admit, turning an in-game concert into a more interactive affair is definitely tempting, but I worry that these video games will get us used to throwing fireballs during a concert, and then we'll come to concerts in real life with our enchanted battle axes, pop a bunch of medicinal herbs, and start throwing fireballs at Weird Al, and then he'll never come back to Victoria.
We always knew that WoW Classic wouldn't be exactly the pure vanilla WoW that only exists in our minds, but that hasn't stopped some players from being a little upset about Blizzard's decision to cap skeletons in the upcoming game. As in, each player will only get one skeleton. You see, in the original game, if your character died and their body decayed, the skeleton would stick around, allowing other, still living players to see where dangerous areas were. The issue is that the feature was also extremely abusable, and Blizzard just doesn't want to deal with rude messages, hate speech, or advertisements rendered in 6-foot-long bone letters. Which makes me wonder, if I'm playing WoW Classic and I'm not seeing ads for Peons for Hire, am I really playing WoW Classic?
Nvidia released a new feature for their graphics cards this week called Ultra Low Latency, and it promises to make games respond even faster to your inputs. To see how it works, let's look at what currently happens. Nvidia cards essentially predict the future. The GPU calculates frames from inputs that you haven't made yet, but that you could potentially make, and then queues up those frames. When you make an input, the correct frame is used, and the GPU uses the idle time where it's not making that frame to calculate another batch of frames based on the next input you haven't made yet. This is supposed to smooth out the display to 60 frames per second, because there's supposed to always be frames in the queue. Except, this also produces latency because it's working off of outdated inputs, and if you input something unexpected, the GPU has to throw out all of the work it has already done and cook up a fresh batch of frames based on your actual input. So what does Nvidia's cool new ultra-low latency feature do? It turns that off. To be clear, it waits for your input, then makes the frame corresponding to that input, then shows you that frame. Fucking wild, right? I mean, could you imagine this in other situations? I'm at the store buying 27 loaves of garlic bread, and I give the cashier a $50 bill. And rather than them reaching into the receptacle that holds exact change for 27 loaves of garlic bread from a 50, they would now have to look at what I'm holding, then count out my change based on that. It completely eliminates the cashier having to then throw out the multiple unused receptacles full of change for stuff that I'm not buying. Madness indeed. I don't know how we're going to survive in this brave new world.
Hey, Beej, great job getting change out of those leather jorts so quickly.
Aw, Kathleen, change implies I put something else on.
Coming up, you can pee in Death Stranding and use it as a weapon. Finally, people are starting to realize how influential Conker's Bad Fur Day really was. I still wasn't listening to what you were saying.
That's
I was just
fine.
concentrating on when I had to turn to camera and look worried.